Morning, everyone. Just wanted to give a quick update on a big system of note in the tropics. It's a pretty busy time right now in the tropics. We have Fiona, TD9, several other systems of interest. It's peak season. The Atlantic's really picked up after a slow start, but we're going to focus on TD9 because that's what's going to be potentially a bigger threat to the United States over the next week, although Fiona is going to be a big threat to Atlantic Canada, so it could be a pretty historic storm for there. We're going to focus on TD9 today. It just was classified last night over the Caribbean Sea. Figured I'd do a quick video rather than writing something out because I'm not going to have a lot of time today because I'm actually going to be going with our NOAA Hurricane Hunters Hurricane Research Division research crew down into this today, or we're heading to Aruba today, and then we'll fly into this starting tomorrow. So this is the visible satellite from this morning. This is the depression. You can see it's spinning away right over here. You may notice all the thunderstorm activity is off to the west here, which tells us that the system is not that organized right now. In organized systems, you have this thunderstorm activity kind of over and around the center. We'll see why that is in a second. So it's still early, it's still getting its act together, but we have a lot of reasons to think it will over the next couple days. So to talk about why it is like that right now, we're actually gonna use one of the main tools that I work on for my job here at AOML is actually developing this and testing this new hurricane model called HAFS, the Hurricane Analysis and Forecast System. This is from the run from last night for this system. The colors show the spin at low levels, and then these wind barbs. These are basically how strong and the direction of the wind at upper levels. So you can see at the start here, we have all this kind of strong wind from the northeast. This is upper level wind shear caused by outflow from Hurricane Fiona. That's basically blowing the clouds off of the center of this, and that's why it's still fairly weak for now. But as you'll see, if we go out a few days, when it looks like the storm will be somewhere in the central to northwest Caribbean, now the spin has increased quite a bit. You have a stronger storm right here. It'll be somewhere, could be up here near Cuba. It could be near Jamaica. It'll be somewhere in this general vicinity in a few days. But now what you'll notice is the upper level winds now are all blowing away from the center of the storm. And what that does is it allows the storm to basically, it's called outflow, and allows the storm to breathe, and you get the pressure can fall pretty quickly, and the storm can start intensifying pretty quickly. So we think that's what's going to happen as it moves into the central and northwest Caribbean. But exactly how strong it gets and exactly where it goes are still up in the air, as you'll see in a second. So what we like to do one of our tools we like to look at is called ensembles, which is basically the same model run a bunch of different times with slightly different conditions just to see some of the possibilities. And we do that for even different models. So this is the European model ensemble, 50 members, I think. So you can see, they're all in pretty good agreement for the next couple days, kind of off to the west in the Caribbean. But then as time goes on, you have a little more disagreement. There's some that kind of try to do this more western track, which would bring it up toward western Cuba into the Gulf of Mexico. You have some on the more eastern side, which would be close to southeast Florida by the early to middle of next week, and then the middle is kind of the mean of this is kind of towards the Keys and then southwest Florida by next week. If we look at the GFS ensemble, this is the American global model ensemble. Similar idea, maybe just some slight differences. Some on the east here, kind of directly towards South Florida and the Keys. Some on the west, maybe more toward the Yucatan Channel, and then looping back around toward Florida. And then the middle of this again is kind of up in the general direction of southwest Florida by the middle part of next week. So it looks like this will probably end up being over or near Florida sometime by the middle of next week. There's still a chance it could miss slightly to the east, maybe. There's a slight chance it could get further north, but at this point, it's looking pretty likely that somewhere in the southern or western, the southern or west central Florida peninsula is probably going to be dealing with a storm, potentially a strong one, sometime early to middle of next week. And so I think residents throughout Florida and certainly anywhere in the Caribbean, Cuba, the Bahamas, should be preparing and thinking about your hurricane plan. And the main place you want to go for official hurricane info is the Hurricane Center, National Hurricane Center, nhc.noaa.gov. This is their official forecast which with the cone, which basically gives their forecast track and some of the uncertainty around that based on how good the forecasts have been in recent years. So you see a lot of Florida is in that cone, but there's still some wiggle room where it could be a little further west. It could even sneak east. Still a lot on the table. It's forecast to become a hurricane in the Northwest Caribbean and then strengthen it as it gets toward Florida. How much it strengthens, it really remains to be seen. Like I said, those upper level winds and the moisture and a lot of things in the Northwest Caribbean are pretty favorable, but storm structure can be hard to predict. So definitely just start getting your hurricane plan together if you live in Florida, especially if you're in a vulnerable area. So our family's been doing that. Don't panic, just be prepared, kind of prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And like I said, come to the National Hurricane Center for all the latest info. They've got a lot of great stuff here. These key messages are really good. I think it boils down a lot of things to some very plain, easy to understand language. There's some other things like arrival time of winds. You can see, tropical storm force winds could arrive as soon as Monday evening in South Florida. So that's something to think about. Preparation should probably begin, over and really end over the weekend if you can help it, just in case this does move a little faster than expected. So that's all I wanted to show for now. I'm like I said, I'm flying today. I'll try to update a little bit later, maybe once we get down there and we have a little bit better idea what the storm's doing. But just start thinking about preparations and stay safe. Thanks.